Good afternoon, and thanks for joining us here on our Google Plus Hangout with Dr. Ryan Howell. I'm Gary Foreman with thedollarstretcher.com. And in a new study due to be published by the Journal of Economic Psychology, San Francisco State University researchers have identified specific behaviors that lead to compulsive buying. It's believed that about 10% of us suffer from compulsive spending disorder. Today with us we have Assistant Professor of Psychology, Dr. Ryan Howell. Dr. Howell led the team that completed the study. Thanks for being with us, Ryan.
Thank you very much for having me.
The study indicates that compulsive spenders buy for emotional reasons. Can you kind of elaborate on some of that for us, please?
Sure. When we talk about a person having an experience of maybe a buy high, if you were to think about if you're in a bit of a sad mood, or if you feel like you're experiencing a little bit of negative emotionality, a lot of people do different types of things to cope, to try and lift their mood up a little bit, to make them feel a little bit better about themselves. Compulsive buyers, people who tend to buy without any regard on the purchase that they're actually making, one of the coping strategies that they use is to go shopping. So when we're talking about buying for emotional reasons, we all have times when we're not happy or we're feeling a little bit sad, and what we've seen is that one of the things that drives a person to be a compulsive buyer is to use shopping as a coping mechanism.
Oh, okay, so it's a little bit of an emotional jolt then.
Right, it's a little bit of retail therapy, so to speak. Right, it's some people when they're feeling sad might hang out with their friends. Some people might go on a run. Some people might do less productive types of things. Compulsive buyers have a tendency to go to the mall.
Now, I would have thought that compulsive spenders would share gender, age, income, or some personality traits, but your findings seem to show that not being the case. What do compulsive spenders have in common?
Well, there are some small characteristics that are demographic in orientation. We know that compulsive buyers are a little bit more likely to be female. They're a little bit more likely to be a shade younger. It's just that those are not the best predictors of if you're going to find a compulsive buyer. There's one thing that we found that was really interesting, and I guess this is one of the reasons we're talking today about compulsive buyers, and that they don't manage their money. They proceed to almost act like ostriches when it comes to knowing about their financial situations, and that they sort of bury their head in the sand. We think that part of the link between their money management strategies, or their lack thereof, and their compulsive spending habits being for emotional reasons, is that when you sit down to try and put together a budget, or you actually are thinking a little bit about how you're spending your money and you're trying to be a little bit more appropriate about that, it's a very cognitive type of process, right? You have to open up an Excel file and you have to put numbers and columns and things like that, and it takes a little bit of the joy away from the shopping. And so, if one of the reasons you go shopping is for to boost your mood, it can feel a little bit counterproductive to that type of behavior to actually manage your money. So that's one of the more interesting types of findings, and we actually show in our modeling. This is still to be tested out in more intervention types of settings. But the models show that if people who were compulsive buyers were more likely to actually manage their money, they would actually probably stop spending more of it in reckless ways. There's other characteristics, but I'll let you continue with your conversation.
Okay. Now, you mentioned something to me offline called the CBS scale. What can you tell us about that?
Well, CBS stands for Compulsive Buying Scale. It's a new scale. It's on our website. As many people have my own website up. It's called beyondthepurchase.org. We're an academic website, so we allow people to take surveys and quizzes that will help them understand a little bit more about themselves and the way that they spend their money. And the compulsive buying scale, one of the things that we really like about this particular scale is that it helps identify people who might have compulsive buying tendencies, one, before things get really bad, so it's not like a hoarder scale where you really will see that you've really got a diagnostic problem, but you might be able to catch something really early. And it's very behavioral. In that one of the questions on there is do you tend to have lots of shopping bags in your closet? And this is a key indicator of someone who's a compulsive buyer, because compulsive buyers don't really care about what they buy, they just care about the buying process. So the other thing about the compulsive buying scale that we really like is that often scales in the past have asked a lot about how reckless your spending actually is, which means that in theory some scales would say that if you're a billionaire, you can't be a compulsive buyer because you have to get into financial ruin before you're really a compulsive buyer. And that's something that feels that feels a little empty to me. I think that compulsive buying is more of an emotional, psychological reaction to the shopping experience. So that's one of the reasons we have that scale on our website, and people can go to beyondthepurchase.org and take it, find out how they're doing, and then we give people a little bit of some tips about how they may want to reduce their compulsive consumption if they would like to.
And that's yeah. Here at Dodge Stretcher, naturally, we want to give people tools to help them deal with their spending and get the most for their money. So that sounds like a tool that could be very valuable for them.
Yeah, we think so.
And that I'd like to, Ryan mentioned beyondthepurchase.org. I think it's a marvelous site. They have some great quizzes there, something called materialistic value scale, and even one that I'm sure will be very popular, explaining why sex sells. And but we won't give the secret away here. And that wanted to thank Dr. Howell for joining us today. I'm Gary Foreman from the Dollar Stretcher. You can find us on Twitter, Facebook, Google+, Pinterest, and naturally a YouTube channel. And we hope to have Dr. Howell with us again very soon. Thank you, Ryan.
Thank you for having me.